In this video, we will show you how to replace your steering shaft on this Ford F-150. This will be located inside of your engine compartment. Let's get into it. Okay friend, let's get started on our job. You're going to start in the passenger compartment. To remove the steering shaft, it's easiest if you have your steering wheel turned a quarter turn to the left, just as I have mine. Once you have it like that, of course, remove key power, and we're going to tie off the steering wheel in some way that prevents it from spinning on us once we do remove our steering shaft. Now we're inside the engine compartment, we're going to start removing our air inlet tube. In front of your power steering reservoir on the tube itself, you're going to find a 10mm headed mounting bolt. Let's remove that. Now we can take hold of the inlet tube. We're going to carefully start lifting it up a little bit, pull it out and away from the air filter housing, and then out and away from the fender. Let's give this a tug, pulling it away from the fender. There we are. With that out of the way, we're going to gain focus on our steering shaft itself. We're replacing the intermediate shaft in between the upper shaft and our power steering rack down at the bottom. We'll start up at the top. It's important to make sure that you do not remove any hardware until you've definitely tied off that steering wheel. Otherwise, you can cause damage to your airbag system. Now I have my 13mm on my ratchet. We're going to be turning this counterclockwise. I got some movement there. Switch to my electric ratchet. For my first bolt, I typically like to fully remove it. A quick inspection, start it back in a couple threads. Now we're going to make our way all the way down to the bottom of the steering shaft where it connects to our power steering rack next. For this mounting bolt, we're using a 10mm. It's a little bit more difficult to gain access to than the upper mounting bolt. We'll remove our lower pinch bolt. Close inspection, we'll set that aside. Continuing on, we're going to separate the lower portion of our intermediate shaft from the power steering rack. Let's go ahead and grab onto that. We'll give it a wiggle and lift it up. You may need to use a small prying device as well. There we are. We're making our way all the way back up to the top of the intermediate shaft. We can remove our final pinch bolt here. Now let's start removing the intermediate shaft from the upper shaft. If you find you have a hard time removing this, just use a small hammer with a couple light taps. Now we can get this out of here. There it is, friend. Now, prior to installation, it's important to make sure we clean both of our mounting surfaces. We have the upper steering shaft, and we also have the shaft leading out of the power steering rack. We're starting up at the top. For this, I'm just using some fine sandpaper and a clean rag. Up along the top of our upper steering shaft, you can see this small groove. This is where our steering shaft mounting bolt is going to slide straight through. It's a pinch bolt. We want to make sure that's clean and free of any miscellaneous debris as well. The upper shaft looks good. Let's continue on down at that power steering rack. Now we can see that shaft on the power steering rack located just below our power steering pump. I'm just going to clean this down as well. That's in good condition. After cleaning those, I've also cleaned my mounting bolt threads and applied some blue thread locker. You do not need to apply red thread locker to this application. Okay, it's time to install the brand new intermediate steering shaft. We want to make sure we have it in the proper orientation. The way to tell is looking in this area here. You can see that there's a small set screw. This is where the adjustment point is. You should be able to stretch or contract that steering shaft as necessary. That's going to be on the lower aspect. You'll also find that the lower mounting bolt port is considerably smaller than the upper. Let's get this in place. We're starting down on the power steering rack first. Now as we bring this into place, we're being extremely careful not to cause any damage to anything here. For the lower portion here, we had that mounting bolt facing towards the front. That slides down on there easily. If you needed to, you could carefully tap it down into position. Now that I have that rested down on the power steering rack as far as possible, we'll continue on with our through bolt. We'll start it in, but we are not tightening it yet. Now we have that one started in, let's move to our upper mounting point next. Now we're bringing our intermediate shaft up to our upper steering shaft. We'll align this and press it into position and start in our mounting bolt. When installing your shaft, you want to make sure you have it completely bottomed out against that upper steering shaft. We have our cleaned bolt with some blue thread lockers. Start it in, snug it up. Now that I have that upper bolt snug, I'm going to torque it to 35 foot-pounds. Now we can make our way to the lower mounting bolt. We can snug our lower mounting bolt. We'll be torquing this to 22 foot-pounds. There we are. Now that we have our steering shaft installed, it's time to install our air inlet tube. We're going to start with the far end that leads into the driver's side fender. I always like to lift up on my overflow hose here. Slide that underneath there. We're pressing it into the fender as far as possible. Continuing on, we're at the engine side here. We're going to insert this into the air filter housing. Now once you have that aligned, we're going to make our way down here for our 10mm headed mounting bolt located just in front of our power steering reservoir. Once you have that aligned, we can start in that 10mm headed mounting bolt. We have our washer in place as well. Start it in, snug it up. Now back in the passenger compartment, we can remove whatever you had used to hold the steering wheel in place. I'm using a bungee cord down to here, so I'll just go ahead and pull that out. Okay, friend, we finished our installation. Go ahead and close the hood, take your vehicle for a road test to test the functionality. Thanks for watching.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.